One of the things that I've noticed lately about myself is my impatience. Impatience with the process, impatience with others, impatience with just anything. And I don't mean like stomping your feet like a little kid kind of impatient. I just mean the kind of voice in your head that says, hurry up, let's get through this, let's get through this, let's get through this. Kind of like, when you're waiting in line at the grocery store to check out or something. It's that kind of impatience. And it can be really frustrating when I get caught up in that. I'm frustrated with myself, I get frustrated with other people, and it just kind of messes with my vibe, if you will. Um, so I've been thinking about that, and I've been thinking about, well, why is that so much impatience? And I think part of it is because I'm always wanting to get to the destination, and in the process of getting to the destination, I miss the beauty of the journey. And I know that I'm not the only one that does that, but that's just what's on my mind today and what I want to talk about a little bit. And the part that really is so frustrating is when you're in process, or when I'm in process with something, I can't see any evidence of change. And that's frustrating. And having to live in that state of frustration, knowing that something is coming or hoping that something's coming, but not seeing any evidence of the results. And that's something that I struggle with at times. I really do. I'm the kind of person who has goals. I'm a goal setter. I kind of always have been. I do better when I do that. I think part of that is just kind of, who I am astrologically. Uh, if you know, you know. So I do better when I have a goal, when I have a destination in mind. The challenge is being in the process of that destination and looking all around me. That's why I'm out in nature this morning, right? It's early, I'm out. I love coming to the park early in the morning before the world wakes up, before there's a lot of noise. I see a lot more animals and birds when I'm out here in the park at the morning. Just this morning on my drive in, deer and wild turkeys and all the other normal little animals and birds that you see when you go to a park, state park. And they're not in a rush. They're just out doing their thing, right? That's what I love about nature. That's why I like to be out in nature, because nature has a rhythm that it moves to and doesn't really seem to get in a hurry about much of anything. I don't imagine, deer and foxes and wild turkeys sit around being anxious because something that they want isn't there yet. They just go on about their business. And I know we're not the same. I get all that, but the process is right. Um, and so also too, the other thing that happens to me is I've noticed that if I don't see results in the time frame that I think that I should see them, I tend to want to give up the project or whatever it is. And that's new to me. That's something that really surprises me as I've gotten older, that I've gotten that way, because I didn't used to be that way. Like getting through college, getting my master's degree, right, getting through graduate school, all of those things required me to do the work and be patient. I don't know, maybe it was in that process. There were little mini goals, like you got to get this paper done, you got to do this presentation, or whatever it happens to be. And so that's what you focus on. You don't focus on, matriculating through and getting your degree. That's not what my focus was. My focus was on this thing, then I got to do that, and then I get that done, and then I can move on to the next thing. Well, as an adult, if I don't have the next thing to get to, I start to get impatient. I start to not trust that there is a plan, right? But I have to be an active participant in whatever plan it is that's created. And I noticed that over the last couple years, I had gotten out of that with myself, and I think part of that was because life showed up and changed the plan without my permission, and I had to reevaluate and readjust, and kind of being unmoored in that process, not having a center. That can be a hard place to be, right? With yourself, with the process, with trust. And for me, it's always about trusting, the God of my understanding, my higher power. I heard somebody somewhere talk about Gus, God, universe, source, and I really like that because it encapsulates things that I think most people can relate to, just something bigger than me. That's why I love being out here in nature by the river. I see evidence of a source, an energy, if you will, greater than me, and that calms my agitated, frustrated spirit. When I'm upset or confused or whatever, I always want to go to the woods. I always want to go for a hike because that just kind of grounds me and helps me to feel calmer. But anyway, back to talking about being impatient with the process and abandoning something too early. This whole thing that I've been doing with this YouTube channel, uh, it's a slow burn, right? It's a slow process. It's a slow beginning. That's what Renee tells me all the time. Just give it time, be patient. And I'm still trying to figure out if it's something that I really want to do, that I like doing. It's challenging. It forces me to uh, look and deal with aspects of myself that make me uncomfortable, quite frankly. And there have been times when I'm like, I don't want to do that. And there were a couple of days where I didn't do it. I just didn't have it in me to do. And instead of beating myself up about that, I just didn't do it. I just didn't do it because I have a lot of energy going out, and this is something that also requires energy, to think about things and set things up and all that other kind of stuff. But I'm gonna believe in other people's wisdom. I'm gonna believe in other people's experience. That's what I've been taught to do, and that has been very helpful. I don't have to make all the mistakes. I can lean into the experience of others for encouragement, for guidance, for instruction. Right? I don't have to do it all on my own, and that's kind of that's pushes me up against something that I have to also take a look at. Right? This lie of self-sufficiency that I can do everything by myself, and for me anyway, and I'm not, again, not the only one, and I know that for a lot of people who have experienced a lot of childhood trauma, that's one of the belief systems that get formed. You can't count on people, the adults, to be there when you need them, and so you have to count on yourself, and that's a hard lesson to learn at a young age. And I can remember very clearly when I was a teenager believing you can't trust people. You can't count on people. When you need them, they're not going to be there for you. And that was a result of things that had happened in my life. And, you know, I didn't realize at the time how deeply that belief would get implanted in me, but it did. And as an adult, I've had to learn the opposite of that, that people can be trusted. Yeah, people will let you down. People will lie to you. People will manipulate you. People will abandon you. um, I also read one time that as an adult, people don't abandon you; they just leave, right? And sometimes they just leave without an explanation, and that's the hardest part, isn't it? I mean, it was the hardest part for me that you leave and I don't get an explanation as to why you left, and so then my mind wants to create a story about that. Uh, yeah, but that's a subject for a whole other video, right? I'm not going to get into that. The other thing I want to talk about with being in the process is that when I'm patient, that doesn't mean I'm passive, right? It's not like, oh, I'm just going to set this goal. When you set a goal, there's action that you have to take behind it, right? And you don't get the results of those actions right away. It takes time, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to do anything. So I still do little things, learn, adjust, take little actions here and there, make little decisions here and there, learn things here and there. I'm not being passive while I'm waiting for the outcome. I'm still doing things that move me slowly in that direction. I've just switched my focus from the outcome to the journey. And the journey can be beautiful when I'm present in it, when I'm in the moment, right? That's what the mindfulness is all about, the awareness. That's why I love meditation, right? It takes me out of my head and puts me into my body and gets me present in the moment. And there's some relief, certainly, to me, because my mind is something that's spinning constantly. Um, yeah, again, that's why another reason why I love hiking. When I'm hiking, I can be very present in the moment and I'm not thinking about other things. I'm trying to stay present. My mind will take me hostage, is what I say. It takes me places without my permission, and I just have to realize, oh God, I'm on this ride that I don't want to be on. Uh, so I have to stop and redirect my thoughts because I do have that ability, right? The awareness of it, and that's something that I've had to work on. Um, the other thing is living in how do I want to say that? Learning how to live when the thing that you want is still becoming. It is not where you plan to be. I've done a lot of different things over the last couple of years since I quit working full time. Um, a lot of that was spent, probably the first good year and a half was spent about just rebuilding that relationship with myself, learning how to trust myself again, learning how to have confidence in myself again, to believe that I can create a beautiful life. Because I had created a life that changed, quite frankly, again, without my permission. And adjusting to all of that change was, there was a lot in that. And just putting your head down and grinding, that's what I've always done, right? And it just wore me down. I just didn't have it anymore. And that was so weird. I want to talk about that for a minute. That was so weird to realize that it's not that you don't want to do it. You can't. You don't have it. It's not there anymore. And that there's a little bit of panic in that because I've never been in that place of not being able to do that. It was like all of my energy was gone. I just could not force myself to do something that I had invested in. I invested money, I invested hope, I had invested time, and I just couldn't do it. Oh my God, that was so surprising and confusing and all of that because I'd always been able to do it. I've always been able to just put my head down. And I think for me, what I've learned is that, oh, that's not the direction that I'm supposed to be going. That's why I don't have it. That's why it's not flowing. That's why it's not easy. I know from my lived experience that when I am in the process, when I'm in flow, when I am on the right path, so to speak, things feel better. It just flows. There's none of these obstacles constantly and this grind and push and all that. Not to say that it's easy. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's not so hard all the time. And that's how I know that it's the right place to be. And when it's the opposite of that, then that's not the right place for me. And I had to accept that. And that wasn't easy because I had to, again, let go of a vision of how I thought things were going to be because they weren't going to be that way. And I couldn't make them that way, no matter how hard I wanted it or wanted to try. I just could not. I didn't want to. Could not. I don't know what happened to that. It just went away. It got redirected to something else. It got redirected back into myself instead of um, producing and being in that hustle and grind mindset, which I was trying to get out of, that wore me down, that exhausted me. Spirit's like, I don't want you going down another path. That's not for you. Just trust me. Just trust this process. And that's what this video is about. It's about trusting the process, being in the journey, having faith and hope that the destination is the place that you want to be. And it's again, it's not passive. I don't just sit back and do anything. I have some vision, right? I have some hope. I have some manifestation. I have some idea, some goals, right? But I'm not pushing and forcing and trying to manipulate and all of that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to be in the process. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. Um, and learning to trust that even when I can't see the end result, it does not mean that nothing is happening. Why don't you share with me a little bit about what it's like for you when you stay in the process, how you hold the vision in the becoming when you're not to the end yet? Because I'm really curious, how do other people do it? That's how I do it, and I'd love to hear how you do it. So let me know. Thanks.